Hi, I'm back. Day 4 of reading A Girl, a Raccoon, and the Midnight Moon by me, Karen Romano Young, with illustrations by Jessixa Bagley, published by Chronicle Kids this year, 2020. Chapter 3, After the Scream. Still August 28th. Mr. Gulliver was the last one to leave the garden, chuckling to himself in a not nice way. He was a graying, balding, skinny man who always seemed to be wearing brown, even though, as Simon said, his favorite color had to be green for money. And his expression at the moment was half laughing at someone and half smelling something stinky. "What's so funny, Gully?" asked Mom. Gully laughed as if anything could happen now. "That head being stolen is probably just the start," he said. "The start of what?" said Pearl. "The start of the end," said Gully, loving the attention. "The end of what?" "This business." He waved his hand toward the library, if you can call it that. Mom got a steely grip on Pearl's elbow. "Thank you, Mr. Gulliver," Mom said, and pushed Pearl toward Bruce to make sure she didn't say anything else. Over her shoulder, Pearl watched Gully scuttle across the street. Pearl would have liked Gully's Buckabye if it wasn't for Gully. The store was big and bright and tacky and grungy, one of those stores that had everything cheap and junky, from pencils to hair curlers. It was a good place if you only had a buck and wanted something for it, so Gully did a decent business, but not decent enough to suit him. In Gully's opinion, a library did not attract spenders, and Gully wanted only shoppers parading up and down the street, not people who liked free books. He thought he knew what was good for America, for New York City, for Lancaster Avenue, and apparently for Pearl. Bruce was staring at the statue as though it really was the end of the library to have such a landmark vandalized. He seemed frozen until he reached for Pearl's hand. "There's more to the library than—" he began. He trailed off. "The garden's what I've always loved about this place," he said. "Other branches don't have this kind of space, this kind of artwork, and trees that shield it from observers with criminal intent. And maybe it's better if they don't, but maybe—" "Maybe the garden came with the building," said Mom. "Maybe the statue came with the garden, and maybe it's up to us to preserve it." Mom was red hot with action. "Have the newspapers been called, Bruce?" Bruce stared at her. "No, Patricia," he said. "That actually wasn't the first thing I did when I saw we had been victimized by vandals." Mom strode off through the back hall, her phone already to her ear. "Yes, this is Mrs. Patricia Moran of the Lancaster Avenue Branch Library. I'm calling to inform you that our landmark statue of the New York poet Edna St. Vincent Millay has been vandalized. I think the moon should cover the story. Yes, Lancaster Avenue. Yes, I'll hold." Bruce followed her. "Trish, why do you want them to know?" "Don't we get enough bad press on Lancaster Avenue?" asked Alice, coming along. "Too true," said Bruce. "No doubt they'll write about how the library can't protect its own property, falling apart at the seams, bleeding money." "It is not," said Pearl, feeling more hopeful than certain. She didn't know what to make of the idea of bad press, or the fact that Bruce and Alice seemed sure the library would get it. "It is, though," Simon said gently. "We don't even have a gate." Bruce tapped his fingers against his lower lip. It could mean attention, funding for better security. "I'll send another email about our budget to the board. Or maybe the mayor." "The mayor who's never even been here," Pearl added. She felt bad news sinking into her heart. "The mayor who only goes to new libraries?" Her Honor the Mayor had cut the ribbon at the opening of the new Knickerbocker branch. "Vandalism is just going to expose us as being undervalued by the neighborhood," said Ramon. "The mayor already knows the library is old. We don't want her to think it's risky to operate, too," said Alice. "Old is historic," Pearl insisted, "not risky." "It's both," said Bruce. "So why would we want to tell the newspaper?" Mom ignored them all. Someone at the paper had finally picked her call back up. Yes, I'm calling to report a crime against the city, she said into the phone. This is Mrs. Patricia Moran from the historic branch library in the old Lancaster mansion on Lancaster Avenue, with the statue of the beloved New York poet Edna St. Vincent Millay, whose head has disappeared in the night. No leads at all yet, but fine. She hung up with an expression of mixed surprise and satisfaction. They're sending a reporter. Swell, said Bruce unenthusiastically. Wait and see, said Ramon soothingly. The girl with the braids was still standing in the circulation area, as if she had any business poking her nose in. The girl gave a loud sniff, and that drew tender-hearted Alice's attention. Alice always reached out to any kid, even ones she'd never seen. What's your name? Francine, the girl said. I live across the street. Well, I'm sure we'll find our Vincent, Francine, Alice said. To get the attention back, Pearl said, You're such an optimist, Alice. It was what Mom always said to Bruce when she hoped to console him in her good moments, when she gave him a glass of wine and a kiss on the top of his head, when he came over after the library closed. Unlike the times, more frequent lately, when she told him his management skills needed improvement, or he was going to get himself fired, and didn't ask him over after work. Alice took Pearl's hand. We have to try. Pearl let go of Alice's hand because Francine was watching, but then Alice asked Francine, coming to story hour, and gave Pearl one of her invisible nudges, and together they went up to the children's room. In summer, Pearl always listened to Alice's story hour every morning, hanging around the edges because it was actually for little kids. Francine eyed Pearl, who stood by the window and plopped down in a beanbag chair so she could see the pictures. The book today was Mike Mulligan and His Steam Shovel. Mike Mulligan and His Steam Shovel by Virginia Lee Burton, Riverside Press, 1939, which ought to have been popular enough in their neighborhood where so much was being demolished and other stuff being built. But only 4 little kids came, all with one mom. On the first page of the story, Francine leaned toward Pearl and said, A steam shovel named Mary Ann? As if there was something wrong with the name Mary Ann. Then, this is for babies. Pearl stood there steaming as much as the shovel. Picture books were for anybody. When Francine said, Dig a basement in just one day, that's unrealistic, Pearl stomped out. She ignored the sad face Alice made at her. Let Francine sit there and challenge the best book ever. So much for new visitors. Pearl went downstairs. There was more traffic in the library than usual, people traipsing through the building to get to the garden to see Vincent's sad statue with their own eyes. Pearl saw them pass and tried to pretend they didn't exist. She kept her head down and scooted into the reference room, where she tucked herself into her own personal nook, on the floor beside the globe and the shelf of atlases which shielded her from the room. Mr. Nichols, a homeless man, not scared like lots, not scary like some, with graying brown curly hair and glasses, who came there nearly every day, sat in the chair beside the atlas shelf with the newspaper up in front of his face, eyes shut. He did this often, and Pearl knew that when he began snoring, she should jiggle his sleeve gently, not enough to wake him, but enough to make him quit snoring, because if he snored, Ramon would have to come bump the table nearby to wake him. You weren't allowed to sleep in the library. Pearl realized Mr. Nichols must have slept through her scream and all that came after it. He alone did not know what had happened to the library. She crept away quietly. She didn't want to have to tell anyone. That would make the theft seem more real. A sidebar about stories. A story should start at the turning point, the moment when everything changes. A scream is as good a change as any, if it means something new happens. The reason for the change can come after and add a little to the mystery, simply by being late. Also, just because the scream changes things, that doesn't mean it's a straight path after that. There might be another big change, another turn in the road, maybe a turn that comes right after another scream. Wait and see, by M.A.M. Sometimes in this neighborhood there were burglaries. Robbers got in through the windows, down from the roof, up from the fire escape, and made off with computers and TVs and phones and anything else good. You couldn't ever expect to see your stuff again. Someone had broken into Ramon's apartment at the beginning of the summer and taken his Bose sound system with the wireless headphones and his microwave. I don't miss the microwave much, but boy, do I miss that Bose. He was saving up for another one. What had bothered Ramon most, even more than the Bose, was the idea that somebody with criminal tendencies had been in his home. And now someone with criminal tendencies had been in the library garden. Well, if the police weren't going to take the crime seriously, someone was going to have to, thought Pearl, even if the prospect of confronting a criminal made her stomach curl. She wished she could be in some other situation than this, but where else could she be? The library was Pearl's home. Almost 11 years ago, she had been born here, right here in the Lancaster Avenue branch of the New York City Library, and she had been here practically every day since. Pearl's mother, Patricia Moran, the circulation librarian, told Pearl the true story of how she was born in the calm, book-lined, window-bright memorial room, coming too fast for Mom to make it to the hospital. Mom shook her finger at Pearl when she told this part, meaning, always in such a hurry. Pearl had the same light brown skin as her long-gone father, Mr. Michael Moran, whom she'd never met, and Mom's green eyes and fluffy hair, though Pearl's was brown, not red like Mom's, but mostly she was her own self. For the first few months of her life, Pearl lived in a basket that Mom carried every morning from the apartment around the corner on Beep Street. A pillow cushioned Pearl's head, and a quilt made by the old library director, Mrs. Abramo, kept her cozy. Mom tucked library books around Pearl to transport them. Now, Pearl slept in a pull-out chair bed with Francis the Stuffed Badger, a character in the Francis books, starting with Bedtime for Francis by Russell Hoban, Harper, 1960. On her pillow, Stregonona, the witch doll, under her arm, from Stregonona by Tommy DePaola, Simon & Schuster, 1975, and a poster of the boy from the book, In the Night Kitchen by Maurice Sendak, Harper and Row, 1970, on the wall. The boy, Mickey, visits a giant bakery and falls into a bottle of milk. He drinks some, then says, "I'm in the milk and the milk's in me." But even their cozy apartment wasn't home. It was just a place to sleep. It was just the place where Pearl and her mother went at night. Home would always be the narrow, tall, 3-story brick building with 41,134 books, a book elevator, 2 straight staircases, and 1 spiral staircase. It had a display case full of old-time photographs of the city, some slow computers, a giant papier-mâché giraffe made out of a folding ladder, and in the back garden, under some of the rarest pines in New York, the statue of Edna St. Vincent Millay. Pearl felt like Mickey in the milk. She was in the books, and the books were in her. The library was home, and the staff was her family. Alice always said Pearl was born with her nose in a book. Alice had just graduated from library school when Pearl was born. Now she was the children's librarian and had been here long enough to watch some of her first regulars bring their own kids. Since Pearl was a toddler, Alice had found her books, read to her, and helped her to read on her own. Simon Lowe, the teenage page who came when Pearl was 8, said Pearl was a bookworm that had turned into a real girl, a book butterfly. Simon had started as a volunteer when he was 13, brought moose shoe pancakes and fantail shrimp from his mother's restaurant in Chinatown, bought mozzarella veggie burgers and funny bones from the Cozy Soup and Burger, and made grilled marshmallow and peanut butter sandwiches in the toaster oven in the staff room. Pearl had never not loved Simon Lowe. Ramon Cisneros, the reference librarian, had run up both flights of stairs to bring the paramedics, who told Mom what she could already see for herself. Pearl was quick, she was healthy, and she was loud. As the reference librarian, the smartest, oldest person in the place, Ramon helped her with her homework, improved her vocabulary, and showed her showed her old Top Cat cartoons on the computer, a show about a gang of ragtag city kitties. Ramon looked like a rumpled owl awake in the daytime, short and strong with black and gray hair like feathers. Bruce, who had never wanted to run a library and prided himself on his management skills despite what Mom said, not his literary ones, had started Pearl on reading reviews of children's books when she was 8. While they still had a budget to build the book collection, she'd put a check mark in the catalog next to the books she thought they should request. When the books came, Pearl got to read them first. And Mr. Nichols, who had arrived one day last spring, from all around, Bruce had said, he's some kind of professional, look at his hands, and who spent the day behind the atlas shelf in the reference room. Mr. Nichols listened to Pearl. I'm all ears, he'd say. He listened to every word, held the books by the edges respectfully, reading a paragraph she pointed out here and there, and tucking books she was midway through in her nook's secret hiding place under the Historical Atlas of New York State. Historical Atlas of New York State by William P. Munger, published by Frankie Richards in 1941. It's rare and out of print, like lots of wonderful books in our nation's libraries. He never told any stories of his own, but he was happy to listen to Pearl's. All these people watched over Pearl, and if anyone asked what a kid was doing behind the official-looking circulation counter or in the staff-only area along the roped-off mezzanine of the elegant reading room, one of them would answer, "That's Pearl. She's the librarian's child." People would say, all jokey, "The librarian's child. Bet she never makes a peep." Bruce said dryly, "Not exactly." "Paradoxically, no," said Ramon. "Kind of the opposite," Alice would say with a grin. "Yeah, right," Simon said. Mr. Nichols, if anyone ever asked him, would simply answer that Pearl had plenty to say. Pearl's mother made up a poem about her, starting with an old rhyme. The shoemaker's child goes barefoot. The toy maker's child has no toys. The dentist's child has loose teeth. And the librarian's child makes noise. Leslie Keogh, then of Bethel Public Library, now of Wilton Public Library, both in Connecticut, long ago altered this old rhyme to fit her son Jack and told it to me. "I do not," said Pearl in protest. Yet Mom's poem was true enough. If someone was making a noise, it was usually Pearl. She was the one running down the steps in her flip-flops, singing in the book elevator where grown-ups didn't fit, making squeakers with her sneakers on the wet marble floor. It was Pearl who kept spinning the summer reading roulette wheel in the children's room until Alice told her to quit. She'd play Chopsticks. Chopsticks was originally named the celebrated Chop Waltz by Euphemia Allen, under the pseudonym Arthur DeLully, and written in 1877. On the piano in the memorial room until Simon closed the lid. And once a day, she'd open the window to air out Bruce's rat's nest of an office on the 3rd floor and sing out to the stone statue in the garden, "Ah, sweet mystery of life." Sweet Mystery of Life by Victor Herbert. Lyrics by Rita Johnson Young from Naughty Marietta, first performed in 1910. Or Zippity-Doo-Dah, Zippity-Ay. Zippity-Doo-Dah by Ali Rubel. Lyrics by Ray Gilbert for the 1946 Disney movie Song of the South. Or Hey Now, You're an All-Star. All-Star by Smash Mouth, 1999, from the album Astro Lounge. Or some other song. The last loud song ever had been a scream. And now Vincent was gone, or the most important part of her was. Pearl thought about all the mystery stories she'd ever read and how the characters solving the mysteries had sat down and figured out all the clues they had. She guessed that was job 1. See you tomorrow.